Welcome back to Marvel Maniac, an MCU after show. This is your host, Eric Cicada, aka Mr. Honest. So excited to be back here with you today for a season finale of maybe one of the most epic Disney Plus shows ever. I mean, this is up there with Loki and WandaVision. For me, I think that this show sets up a character so cool for so many different stories. And I know he's a big character in the comics, yet I'm just getting to know him. One, in Marvel Rivals. I don't know if anyone's been playing that Marvel game taking over the world. Us Marvel fans are a little lucky right now. And on top of that, the acting in this show is spectacular. Oscar Isaac is insane. I mean, let's just go straight to the big twist at the end. Spoiler alert for everything Moon Knight and predictions of Moon Knight going forward. Jake Lockley, the third personality that we didn't know was there but was there, was hinted at for the whole series. The big first moment, I think, was the first introduction where Marc meets Harrow. Steven, meets Harrow, and he blacks out and like all the people are dead. I don't see Moon Knight or Mr. Knight, Marc or Steven killing as much and it being like reflected on. But at the end of this episode too, they both pop out of they do the thing they did early in the series where he slips forward in time to after in a series of events. So he just killed all of those people, and they agree at that moment. That wasn't you, was it, Steven? No, it was not me. So there's a hint that we got Jake Lockley in there, and he speaks Spanish. So we got this Spanish speaking guy named Jake Lockley. We got Steven, who's a little, very quaint British man. And we got Marc, the kind of main man of all of these branches of people. Yo, are we going to see season 2, or is there going to be a movie? I know it's been rumored. I heard there was going to be a movie. Either way, the show's really good. I almost think, not that I wanted less, but that if they cut all this down into a movie, I think it would not. I think it would kick ass. So I could see why they'd want to give him a movie next. This is by far the best episode of the show. They pulled out all the stops for this one. We start this episode in the afterlife, and there's one thing I forgot to mention in the last episode. When Steven jumps off the boat, he turns to stone. I don't think I said that, and that really has been bothering me since my last episode. Didn't want to go change the whole episode and edit it in one word, so I'm just bringing it up here. This episode gives me hope for a character like Moon Knight to have a very unique story in the MCU, and we know how long stories can run in the MCU, so if this is a super popular movie especially, we might have Moon Knight be a main Avenger. I mean, there's the thing called the Midnight Suns, which Marvel clearly has not even started to lean in on yet. They've set up lightly in the background some characters for it, like Man-Thing and the Werewolf by Night, and the lady from Werewolf by Night. I can't think of her freaking name, Bloodstone. These characters, Doctor Strange, they form a group called the Midnight Suns. It's fighting more I don't know, Dracula and different types of entities that they're fighting. They're fighting more of the supernatural entities. Blade is in there too. All this information is probably streamlined from Screen Crush straight into my my noggin. And I gotta give New Rockstars credit too. I love their videos. I like that they're branching out. That they did a video with Jessica Clemens about Marvel Rivals. So maybe I'll do an episode talking about Marvel Rivals, the story going on in there, how cool it is for Marvel fans to have a game like this, and a lasting. It's going to be around for a while. But we're going to talk about that briefly, maybe not at all. We kind of just talked about it. This episode's all about the finale of Moon Knight. And the it's episode 6, titled Gods and Monsters, instead of Gods and Men. Because we know there's a kaiju type fight. I mean, they're not that big, but Amit and Khonshu fighting as giants, while Steven / Marc Moon Knight fight Harrow in the air. Cinematic as heck, really cool, scary moments where Khonshu is losing the fight with Amit, and Steven is losing, and Marc are losing the fight with Harrow, and like you see, they're on their backs on the ground, and you look and you get to see their perspective. It's like Harrow coming at him with a staff, and then Khonshu just giant Khonshu getting like bodied by this giant alligator lady. Holy moly! And that's just the ending. I mean, the show addressed the balancing of the hearts like in the last episode, and Marc insisted on going back for Steven. He couldn't help it because Steven is a part of him, and that is huge. Like, it was expected for him to leave alone and have worked through this trauma and gotten rid of that alternate personality. I think Jake Lockley would have made it out of there with him, though. I think it's so cool that he went to go save Steven, because he was in a field of gold and he was about to leave the afterlife back into the mortal land, but he didn't have his other counterpart, something that could have been considered a crutch or a weakness, having a split personality. It actually is something that he's grown to love and connect with, and he did not want to leave Steven to die there. So I find that sacrifice beautiful, because that's what it was. He's not going to leave Steven alone, because he starts to turn to stone when he goes to save Steven. But he says these amazing things, and he's like, "You're my other half." And, it's like, it sounds almost romantic, but it's more of like a brotherly, like, it's a type of connection that they share that's so unearthly that it's almost hard to relate to, but it's kind of special to see. They feel like twins kind of when they're in the afterlife, because we get to see both of them when they're hugging. I think it's funny, and I think they do like an amazing job at like making the two Oscar Isaacs look like individual Oscar Isaacs and not CGI or anything. Layla has such a cool story in this episode, and I'd say it's just a tiny little bit not rushed. It's just close to being rushed, because I picked up and understood everything that was happening. Some moments in some shows don't need some giant lead up to a hero becoming a hero or something. The way that Layla becomes a hero is kind of organic, and they were using Layla to get the help to get Khonshu, his statue. All you have to do is break the statue. So that statue of Amit, Harrow destroyed, and she came out, started barking all these demands, and she goes on to say something along the lines of, I had someone whose scales were balanced before, and they got me locked up for 2,000 years. So Harrow's scales are unbalanced. He even willingly submits himself to die because of it. Deep down, I think he knows that loyalty he showed to Amit to release her, it's going to come back in his favor. And it does for him. He becomes the avatar of Amit. So this gives him like this epic staff of power. I don't know. It looks a little bit like Loki's staff, but it's power with purple power. And I find that really fun that our villain gets a power up at the end, and as well as Marc and Steven getting Moon Knight back and coming back to life together, because a golden door appeared in front of them after the genuine connection they shared out there, pretty much ready to die together, because they got each other's back so much that they're not going to leave one or the other behind. It's a special kind of love that you can't really compare much to. I think it was pretty cool how Layla became the Golden Scarab. That's what her name is in the comics, I believe. So she becomes the, in quotes, temporary avatar for the hippo lady, whose name I have written down in my pages of notes every time I write. Don't take too many notes. Just be organic. I'm not even looking at them. I'm glancing at them. I think what it is, I'll let you guys into my process. I think writing down the notes through the episode helps me remember everything that happened. So even if I'm not glancing at them as much, I have the episode more memorized in my head from writing all those notes. I don't know why, but it just works that way. And I think it's more fun, like what I'm doing now, honestly, just recalling the episode, whatever big moment pops in my head, and making sure to catch all the moments. I'm always working on a process here to get the best show ever. Always send awesome critical feedback or good feedback, as long as it's nice, obviously. MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. Your input goes the longest way. I take all and any input and put it to work, if I believe you're correct. And I honestly would like some listener perspective. So don't hesitate. MarvelManiacPod at gmail.com. We'll put it on the show unless you don't want it on the show, or unless it's personal or something like that. Reach out to us. Reach out. And another thing on the Golden Scarab, since we don't see her too much, she's got really cool big wings. She's kind of like a Falcon-esque character. She loves it. There's even a moment that I think maybe was a little bit too leaned on, but I got to lean on a point. Like the girl says, "Are you an Egyptian superhero?" And she's like, "I am." So as cheesy as that was, you can make moments cheesy or you can make them emotional, and it depends on how invested you are in the character. So when I think to Layla, I like her story. That moment is kind of cool. It's similar to this, okay? Avengers Endgame. Cap gets Mjolnir. He does this kind of like, I can do this pose. Like, if I wasn't really invested in the character, I would have been like, okay, he made a funny face. But he was being genuine because we all know the power that he had in his hands. And it was a huge deal for him to do this. So, same for Layla. I don't think the Golden Scarab's going anywhere. I hope there's room for her among all these new heroes. It'd be bringing in, Marc and Layla, the Golden Scarab, or it could be similar to a Rhodey, a Sam Wilson early on, not making the Avengers movies, but a character within their own series. Like maybe we'll get Moon Knight season 2 after the Avengers. I hope we get season 2, but like I said, the movie is also in speculation. It's not really known publicly yet exactly what's happening. So we got to stay open to all ideas. I think the best news is we're getting more Moon Knight. And if you watched What If's recent season, we get to see him in action with the Avengers in the first episode. Go check it out. It's not like what you think. It's not like a regular episode. What If is such a crazy show. But I definitely recommend watching all of it. It's a heck of a ride. I think they finished it, even though I hope they bring it back. But they pretty much did 3 seasons, one and done, and it's over. So go check it out. We covered every episode day by day. It's got a very Christmassy, homey feel. I listened back to a few of them because I did so many. I forgot. I'm like, did I even do this? And I liked the flow of the episodes. And I like the flow of these new episodes not going too long. However, season finale right here. If this goes a little long, it's because it's a lot to think about, a lot to sit on, and it's the last time we're going to be really full on talking about this character until we see him again. So the fact that we get Jake Lockley at the end is one of the biggest reveals because we think, and even so, the scales, they're balanced, and Marc and Steven get to go on. Jake Lockley lives in there, deep down in there, and he comes out at moments probably. I don't know how often he's been coming out, but he comes out. And again, I don't say acting because I want to be invested in the world, but like you got to think of Oscar Isaac as a powerhouse actor when he's playing 3 different characters in one body. It's really good. And if it weren't done right, if it wasn't as good as it was, if the differentiation between Marc and Steven on his part wasn't as like fine lined, the show would suck. The show would really suck, honestly. Like, you got to give props to Oscar Isaac on this one. It's a lot to take on. It's kind of reminds me of why Robert Downey Jr. was mentioning coming back to the MCU, because it's for an actor, you love when your character goes through changes and a big story based off of things that happened to them in their last appearance or movie, carrying over like a big series of which the MCU is. So sitting with Steven's trauma, it's kind of funny in the beginning. We look back at the beginning. Steven is our main character, even though he's the secondary. He's the second personality to Marc. But the show wants us to see how much of a character Steven is, how real he is, how he has a daily life. And Marc is kind of living in the shadows of that, being Moon Knight. And so, it's fun to look back at the beginning of the series knowing what was really going on now, especially with Jake Lockley. It makes maybe a few things make sense. It's not like a PSA or anything, but as someone who's dealt with mental health struggles and been through a ringer and back, I gotta say, for them to lean in on a lot of this mental health kind of feel to it. It's not like this is the mental health episode of Moon Knight. It's just the way they resolve their problems, Marc and Steven, is so powerful. And it's not probably too peaceful having 3 or 4 people living in your head. And It's a good metaphor for anxiety. Sitting anxiety. It's like I have sitting anxiety. It'll sit with you all day. It could ruin your day. Sometimes even your week. At worst, it could ruin a month. If you're not talking about it with the right people or expressing it. For me, it's really good to express it on this podcast, in my opinion, because I want to share it with you, even though it's a little off topic. It's just good to know for me that other people out there are like that. And just so you know, you can always find a way to make your life work to your advantage. I personally, if this were a live podcast, it wouldn't be great because I need to make certain little cuts. There's certain things I trail off on. I love having you as a part of this experience. I love letting you in the back door and showing you a little bit of like what I'm working with right now. Right now, I have a lot of creative steam and hopes are high. And I'm really, really excited about this show. And it's my favorite thing in the world. And I hope you like it too. And again, MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. Let's make it better and bigger. And that's kind of like the theme, like one of the main themes in the series is that the exploration of mental health and whose identity is what and what does each identity really represent. And dealing with trauma from your past and how that can kind of form you into the person you are today. Like with Marc and his mom and her being the reason that Steven is created. We get to see that last episode. I thought that was kind of special and sad. And doing that time, putting in that time is what I'm talking about, to build these characters like that. It's something you won't get out of a regular Marvel movie. We get pretty much 2 to 3 movies in this series. So like, we learn so much about this character. It's almost like I know about as much almost about him as I do Sam Wilson, Captain America these days. So that's when the 6 episode format like this really works. And the 9 episode format for a brave 9 episodes for WandaVision and Agatha all along. Being a Marvel maniac, it's not that I don't set my standards high. I'm always willing to put away something that like was negative about an episode and like separate it from the rest of the show. For me, like that's why I love She-Hulk. Like maybe there was 1 or 2 weird moments. I thought the fact that she was twerking with Megan Thee Stallion, I thought that was hilarious. Okay. I don't know why, but some people just didn't like that show. My main critique was the CGI needed like another couple months, like a month more on the CGI for some scenes. But the big scenes you could tell they put a lot of work in on the CGI. I wonder if that's stuff that they're quietly going back and editing because it's on Disney Plus and they could just fix it in and out. I think they did that with Game of Thrones, really dark, one of the ending series episodes. So I would like the modern times to help shows do that and fix themselves if need be in terms of like lighting or this or that. So did the finale finish the story for Steven and Marc? No, it opened up a whole new avenue for them. Question and curiosity on my part, if he does join the Avengers, who's going to be like the guy? Which Moon Knight are we getting here? I think Jake Lockley may very well be an antagonist next season or movie. And I think getting Jake Lockley out of their heads is going to be maybe the goal. That's who Khonshu uses because, Marc and Steven, they don't want to be Moon Knight anymore. At the end of this episode, they've quit. But they wake up and it's revealed to us about Lockley. And that's crazy. It's like Jake Lockley is willing to... He's the evilest of the bunch, it looks like. And dang, it's a great season ender, great cliffhanger. Something that, unless you were looking for, you probably didn't notice, unless you're a comic fan. If you were just watching this off the cuff, kind of like me, like that third character really wowed me. I just didn't see that coming. Sometimes you see it coming. Not maybe you did, but I didn't this time. It was crazy, man. I'm like, oh, no way. Khonshu sitting in the back of a limo with Harrow. Harrow's so smug. And you can't kill us, so we know he's still with Amit. But just because Steven and Marc won't do the bidding doesn't mean that Khonshu won't use Jake Lockley. And he says Marc wanted... this is what he says. He's like, Marc wanted me to... Thought that I would want Layla to be my new avatar when... I have so many people with Marc, like pretty much. So This is great for Khonshu. He keeps his Moon Knight. Do they have a separate Moon Knight uniform? Like, after he kicked all that ass, Layla was looking at Marc like, Marc, what was that? Like, so she got to see, is there a third Moon Knight costume for Jake Lockley? That's my question. I would like to see. I would really like to see, and I actually really want there to be. Like I said, I thought the action was great at the end. Very narrative-driven show. Finale like a Marvel superhero event. CGI was great. I don't know if anyone even like calls it CGI anymore. It just looked real. Amit, a kind of one and done villain, but she's been built up this whole season, so we know what she's about. The ideals of Harrow kind of are shared between Amit and Harrow, so we know more about Amit than if she was just introduced in this episode. But in a form, we meet her, and she's a giant crocodile or alligator. I never know the difference. I'm sorry, but she's scary as a living heck, and she becomes a giant midway through the episode, judging everybody in the area to see if they're worthy, and the people who are worthy don't die, but most people aren't, so she just takes their souls and is like feeding on them. Meanwhile, Marc and Steven are getting back into their body and meeting Layla and getting a plan together, and some really great fighting, and it was cool to see them down on their luck in the fight. Like, there was the actual moment seeing those two giants fight above the two small people. It was cool. And it's good that we won. We won the fight, and it's good that they freed Khonshu and the day was saved. The ending, similar to this podcast, I guess. The ending kind of came a little fast, but there's saving story. They almost knew that this story was going to demand a sequel in one way or another, and that almost tells me that they may have already even heard about maybe a movie by the end of this post-credit scene to set up a movie. And I think it's the perfect setup for the next storytelling of Moon Knight. I think it'd be weird to see him in the Avengers when his story's not fully resolved, especially since Steven and Marc, our main characters, technically walked away from being Moon Knight. So I think they might want to do the movie for this reason as well, to get it in before Secret Wars, to get it in before the next Avengers, to tell the second season story similar to Guardians of the Galaxy. They get two movies, then they become a part of the bigger MCU and are involved in the Avengers. Maybe Moon Knight won't make it past, or it won't be in Doomsday. Maybe he'll make it in Secret Wars. And that's how we get to know. And maybe their season will be maybe what if, all the what ifs. But you never know where one series might take place on the Battle World. If you know anything about Battle World, that's where Secret Wars is headed. Look into it. I can't get into it now, but I think there's so much in store for you and me, Moon Knight fans. My favorite moment of the whole series, if I'm going to think about it, one of my favorite shots, it was even advertised as the shot where he becomes Moon Knight for the first time, walks out of the bathroom, defeats the demon. Really sweet. My favorite moment is going back in time to see how Marc became Moon Knight, and he needed him to live, and that kind of being reflected upon when he rises up to live again in this episode. Really powerful, visually stunning, and well done scenes, and the finale made me feel a bit incomplete, and actually sadly optimistic because of Jake Lockley, wanting to see more of him, wanting to see more of the Golden Scarab, the new superhero made, Egyptian superhero. She's badass. She's got wings. There can be a lot more story there. And like I said, I think that story might be in the next iteration of Moon Knight. However, with the schedule, we got over expanding, and who knows what delays are to come or what's being worked on secretly so it can come out quick. We will see a sequel to this. We will see follow-up. What did you think of Moon Knight as a series? I want your feedback. MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Do you think Moon Knight should get a movie or another season? Which one? For me, I feel like I want the season, but there's something in my head saying movie. And I hope that's more where I'm at right now. I'm very, very excited that you've been here with me through this. If you have, and if you just chopped in for this last episode, hey, welcome in. This is how you liking the podcast. I hope you're liking it. Thank you so much for giving your time to me on this little longer run episode. We've been usually doing 15 minutes, but for big events, we're going to run it a little longer. We're going to talk about it. I may do an after show because I think this is going to sit with me for a couple days. But I got a couple of fun ideas for Friday's episode. Still putting it together. Don't want to give it a guarantee on what it is yet until the episode releases, okay? I hope you liked Moon Knight as much as me. I hope we get to see him again, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. By the way, wherever you're listening, please rate us high on your platform. We want to get it to as many people as possible. If you have a friend that you go see Marvel movies with, drop them a link. I know it sounds weird if it's something you don't normally do, but it goes a long way for the show, and I love gaining more listeners and telling my side and hearing yours back. And I got a lot in store for this year, and there's a lot coming out this year. So I also want to know if you think I should cover the new Spider-Man animated series. Let me know in the email, MarvelManiacPod@gmail.com. I've said it many times only because I want to see you there. I'm excited to see you next time, whatever project we're covering. We will be back on Friday with a surprise episode. The surprise will be the title of the episode and what we're covering. I got a pretty good idea. I just want to kind of run through my head and make sure. And until next time, Avengers, disassemble.